Alright, so we are back to our usual open approach. Feels less claustrophobic definitely, but also as you're going to find out, this will actually give us a much better shot, but not straight away. Okay, we will have to make some changes, and this is why I keep repeating that product photography is challenging because everything changes according to the product that you're shooting. So we're still shooting that column reflective plastic bottle, but right now, if we just go ahead with this direct setup, it's not going to look good shot. In fact, what you're going to get right now, the light tent was probably giving us better because you're going to see a lot of reflections. So first of all, let me just show you by going inside our camera and let's see how this looks without doing anything else. Alright, so I'm just using the vertical orientation here of the camera and just so that it fits in the bottle nicely. So that is perfect. Right now I can use my tripod also. I can properly compose this because we are in an open environment. But what you can see here straight away is that we are getting those bad looking reflections. Right? We need to get rid of this. We have a direct light source at a 45-degree angle. That's obviously going to cause this. Now, the first thing that we're going to do in order to minimize this, we're going to go step by step. This is going to involve two steps. The first step that we're going to take here is actually to raise this at a height, the light, okay? Because right now you can see it's on most parts of the body, right? From top to bottom. But if you're shooting from top, now the ideal position would have been top. Like I mentioned before, if we were using a boom stand, that would be perfect for this. But you would still see reflections, okay? Because it would even reflect from the top. But at least it would minimize the effect. So first thing that I'm going to do is, we don't have a boom stand here. I'm just going to raise the height of the light stand as much as I can and point the light down as much as I can. So let me show you how that looks and what kind of change it will produce. All right, welcome back. So this time you can see that I've raised the height as much as I can and I've really pointed that light down in order to just get the closest as possible to the look that we would have got with an over the head boom stand, okay? But this also is going to have a massive impact. So first of all, let's go inside the camera and let's see what change it has produced. All right, so this time you can see that we have literally just minimized the reflection from that little top part, okay? Now this definitely is looking better than before. The bottom part is looking absolutely perfect. One thing I should have straight away tell you, don't worry about the thing that you're seeing behind. That's kind of my fault here. What happened was, remember I told you earlier I had joined two chart papers using a tape, and usually always I was using it the other way. So the good part was actually facing us, so you didn't see that problem. This time, by mistake, I just actually use the other side and you can actually see the reflection from that tape. Don't worry about these things because that's from on my part. Okay, that's nothing. Like this would have looked perfectly fine if I just wouldn't have made that mistake. But right now, I'm just going to carry forward to this because right now we're not doing a creative shoot, right? We're just learning how things work. But this definitely looks better. But now, I want you to pause this video if you can, and I want to ask you, what is that one thing that we can do to improve this little shot by a massive degree? And the hint for that is we've already done that thing before. So if you want to pause that video, because I'm going to tell you the answer right now. All right, so the answer is we are obviously going to turn this into a diffused reflection. So everything is just going to look way better. How are we going to do that? By using that diffuser panel that we have been using. So let's do that. All right, so this time you can see I once again put that 42-inch diffusion panel using the reflector holding arm. And now let's go inside the camera. And this time I'm also going to be showing you the settings for this shot because there's just going to be one difference. Because one thing that you have to just understand is that using such a diffusion panel in front of a light obviously cuts down the light, okay? And this is where a tripod will become very essential because we will be able to recover that lost light using shutter speed. And this is one of the very important reasons why an open setup is much better than using a light tent, because in a light tent it's very difficult to use a tripod and the only option would have been to then increase the ISO value. So that's another point for an open setup. But first of all, let me show you how the shot is looking and then let's see the settings to take this shot. All right, so you can already see that this time we are getting a fantastic diffused reflection. This overall shot is looking good. So let's not waste any time. Let's go inside and see the settings that we will be using for this shot. All right, so let's see the settings that we have to use for this shot. One thing that I haven't told you till now is always when you shoot your product shots, or in fact any shots, I don't think I mentioned this, but make sure you set your image quality to RAW and JPEG fine. Okay, so you should always shoot in RAW so that if there's any issue, you can easily correct that in post-processing because you just have more data. Then, secondly, Okay, let's just get our settings right. So I'm not, these were the actually settings because I was shooting those videos which I was showing in between. But now for the photograph, since I'm on the tripod, and this is the advantage of this open setup, I'll first of all turn my ISO all the way to 100, and it's obviously going to reduce the exposure. That's because, but that we will be able to save that from the shutter speed. I'll just have to do one little thing which you don't have to worry about, but that's in the Nikon cameras. So I have to shut the manual movie option off. Don't worry about that. That's nothing to do with this course. Okay, so now we're back to our screen. So now it's all about photography, and now you can see my ISO is set to 100. Now what I'm going to do is f6.3 is fine. In fact, I can actually just maybe go to f8 because this bottle is like, we don't need too much depth of field, right? It was not too wide. And now make sure I focus on the logo, and obviously I will be saving all this light from shutter speed. Okay, I don't mind slightly overexposing this shot by around one stop. One stop means that first bar that you see on the line, and it's coming to 1.6. Okay, so this is a very slow shutter speed. I should definitely be using a remote for this. So I'm going to select the remote mode. And now we're all set. Let's just take this shot. We have this nice diffused reflection showing. The only bad thing is the tape behind. Like I said, that is my fault. You don't really have to worry about that, but we'll probably correct that also. And I think this looks fantastic, but I think this looks a bit overexposed. So I'm gonna just only do half a stop here. Anyway, we're shooting in RAW. That's the advantage. So all these little things don't really matter. Yeah, I think this looks absolutely fantastic and very professional. Let's take the shot to the computer. Let's compare it with our previous shot, which had the reflections, and also then let's edit this just a bit. All right, so here are the two shots. So this was the shot where we had moved the light up, but you can still see that we had that bad looking reflection here, right, of the softbox. And if I just show you the next shot where we diffused it, you can see it literally just disappears, right? And like I said, don't worry about this part behind. That was because of the tape. We are going to fix that in Photoshop because I will be showing you how to edit this photo because there are going to be some new things. But you can see here, this, to be frank, was also not bad because a lot of times, clients will not worry about something, okay? So it's not like you always have to be a perfectionist because reflection is also a part of this product. It shows the kind of quality of like this plastic material that it has, okay? But this also shows that, and especially when we edit this shot, we just want to make it slightly look better, and I think overall, definitely this diffuse shot will look better. But right now, let's take this shot over to Photoshop and let's absolutely make it into an e-commerce RGB white background shot. All right, so this is our shot. First of all, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a crop, even though this was fine actually, just some extra space here and maybe some from here. Okay, so I'm just going to please do this. Also, if I just open up the crop tool, it's just very slightly tilted on the left. So I can just also, if I take my mouse on the corners, I can even just make it straight, okay? So something like this is fine. And when you do that, you do lose a bit on the sides because it crops it a bit, but that's fine. I think this is looking good now. Now, here's the thing. The process of turning the background white is going to be very similar, okay? It'll help us also because it's going to get rid of this tape reflection that we had. But this time, there's going to be a bit of problem because most of this area here, this is going to cause a bit of problem because this is pretty much transparent, right? So you're actually seeing the background behind. And when we actually turn this white, this is likely to become overexposed. So I'll show you in this edit that I'm going to do how to overcome such a problem because this is very common with product shots where you're turning them into white. Okay, so first of all, let's just duplicate this layer. And let's follow the same procedure. We're going to go to Image. We're going to go to Adjustments. We're going to go to Replace Color. We'll select some color here. And here, first of all, one way out of this is make sure that your fuzziness is set to such a level that most of this bottle is black, but you can see it's never going to happen that this area, okay, this area is going to turn into black because we're actually seeing the color that we selected because it's transparent, right? So you can see even if I just leave it on something like this, that's fine, and then just increase the lightness, but you can immediately see that yes, we've got rid of that problem of the tape. Everything looks fine, but the bottle, especially this part, just looks too overexposed, even this white part here. So what we're going to do is, let's say we are okay with this. Okay, we're going to click on OK. And now what we're going to do is, remember, we can always take a mask. We've done that before. So if I open up the mask and I can just paint black wherever I don't want, but this time it's going to be slightly challenging because let's say, so just increase the brush size, make sure black is selected. And now what we want is, so this is the top layer and underneath that we have the original. So what we basically want is, we want the original bottle, but just have the background white. So I can start like painting like this into it and be very careful on the sides, but then it can definitely lead to this scenario. So if I zoom in, either you'll have to be super precise, that's going to make your process very slow, or you'll just run into these areas like this, and sometimes on the edges, then it will not look perfect. So I'm just going to undo that. So what is a better way to do this? So how can we be more accurate when we're masking things out? But what we can do is, we can make a selection first of this bottle, so that when we paint this black here, it only paints within the selection of the bottle and not outside. So even if we make a mistake, it's not going to hamper the process. Okay, if you're getting confused, don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do it. First of all, we need to make a selection of this bottle. Okay, we don't want to do this on this layer, because this is now the bad layer for the bottle, right? It's only good for the background. So we're actually going to hide this, and we're going to come back to this layer, the original layer that we have, and we're going to make a selection right here. Now, either you can use the object selection tool, the quick selection tool, if you have older versions of Photoshop, but in the newer versions, I can just go to select, and this does a great job. I can just click on subject, and that's basically, even in such a shot where most of the things are white, it still selects the subject very well. You can see that's the advantage of having the latest versions of Photoshop. So you can see this is done, but it would have been easy with the quick selection tool also. Now here's the thing, we've got the selection. Now the question is, how do we just transfer this selection over to the mask here? So it's very easy. We're going to enable this layer, okay? And then we're just simply going to select our mask. We don't really have to do anything here. I've just clicked, make sure you've clicked on the mask. Now you can see our mask is selected, but we haven't lost the selection. So we're still working on with that selection. Now, when this is the case, what I can do is I can just take my paintbrush and do the same thing again. But this time I can even do something like this. It just won't go out of bounds this time. Okay, so you can see here, this looks pretty good. Okay, if you want to be slightly more, like let's say you want to keep some white parts, you can always decrease the opacity or paint white back in the areas. But I think this looks pretty good, especially for a proper commercial shot. And to get rid of these marching ants, I can always press Ctrl D or Command D to deselect, and then we get our proper shape back here. Okay, now still you don't want to trust the selection, so it's always best, even if you've done something like this, it's always best to just zoom in and see the edges. There should be nothing that is by mistake left out. Okay, so sort of quickly go from up to down. So you can see here, right? If I just zoom in, a bit of these areas here, they slightly don't look perfect. So again, we have got our mask, right? So we can always paint on it. Now this time, we want to paint white, because white reveals, and we want to reveal this whitish background layer, right? So we're going to actually turn this to white. And if I start painting like this, you can see it'll just get rid of that. Now I'll tell you one neat trick, because this is pretty much straight, right? So what you can do is, instead of just trying to paint in a very accurate manner, just hold down Shift, okay, like somewhere here, hold down Shift and click your mouse, and I've not left the Shift key, okay, and then just go to the straight line down like this and just click here. It'll just paint all of this in a straight line like this. Okay, so you can see here. And this looks good. We can do something similar here. Oops. So I have to, it's connecting the earlier shift. I just have to press once again and see. You can do this. So you can see now, this looks pretty good. So I think that looks like a proper shot, but still we're not done here, because I just felt this shot was very slightly overexposed. That just washed out the colors and the contrast a bit. So what I'm going to do is, we're even going to make this go through camera raw filter in order to just get some colors. Even we'll get some colors out of this red logo that they have. Okay, that's often important in product photography. So I need to work on a separate layer for this. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to merge these two layers onto a separate layer. And how you do that is, you hold down Control, Alt, Shift, and E. Okay, so what that does is, that would have done something similar, basically it's merged these both on a separate layer now. So at least we even have these with us, they don't go away. Otherwise, if I can also right click on both of them and click on merge layers, but then that is slightly more destructive because then you lose both and they don't stay here, okay? This way we merged but onto a new layer so that we can access this in case we need to anytime. So we have this on a separate layer. We're going to open up our camera raw filter that we've seen before. And this time what we're just going to do is, first of all, I just want to raise a bit of vibrance, okay? So we're going to go to basic panel. Under the basic panel, we're going to go to vibrance and just increase the vibrance so it becomes more colorful because it has this nice blue liquid. I think this much is fine. See, before and after. All right, and by the way, I'm accessing that using the backward slash key that we have on the keyboard. You can see the cycle between the before and after views, okay? Then also, I would probably like to just increase the texture a bit, make it more clear because this has those nice bubbles, nice text, some texture here on the cap. Maybe just increase the clarity a bit, but not too much because that works on the bigger edges. We don't want to introduce any artifacts, okay? So I think this is looking good. Now, one thing that I would like to do here is that I would just like to brighten up only the red colors here so that this logo just stands out more. How we can do that in Camera Raw Filter or in Lightroom also is the same thing. You can go to this option which says Color Mixer, and then here I can just take, which color is this? Red. So you get all the different colors separated and you can work on any color. So I can actually even change. So either I can change the hue, saturation, or luminance of any of these colors. For example, I can go to hue and I can even change the hue of the logo like this. Okay, but I don't want to do that. So that's their logo. Then we have luminance and saturation. So saturation is going to make it more saturated. That's one of the things we want to do. You can see I can even turn it really less saturated, almost black and white, or more. And I think a bit of it is also considered as orange by Photoshop here. So sometimes you have to do it for multiple colors like this. You can see here, if you move, you come to know whether it's a part of that color or not, okay? So both of them have given us a good change. Let's see the before and after. Yeah, you can see, okay? Also, I just want to make this brighter. So I'm also going to go to luminance and we can work on its brightness also like this, make it dark or make it bright. I'm just going to brighten this up a bit, both orange as well as this, okay? Maybe not this much, that's slightly loud, and just decrease it here. Okay, so I think this looks fantastic. I think I'm happy with what we're seeing here. I'm going to click on OK. Just going to apply those changes. Let's compare it with the original. So this is what we started off with, and we've got this, which looks really, really professional, right? We will continue with this part about removing reflections because the next object that we're going to see will even be tougher than what we encountered here. And that object is the spoon. Believe it or not, a spoon is going to present a real challenge. So let's go to that part.